High School, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking for a new high school for that young man in the back of your car, which you just brought home from the hospital yesterday. St. Mary's High School is in South City, and they will teach your young man the skills for the 21st century job: science, technology, engineering, and math classes. Whether it's inside the classroom or the extracurricular activities, St. Mary's High School, it's an all-boys Catholic education, and they have the support of the Archdiocese. They have the support of their alumni. Matter of fact, they just opened up a brand new football facility, state-of-the-art football facility. They still have plans on the drawing board for all sorts of things. That shows you that they have the commitment of the community. If an all-boys Catholic education is something you'd be interested in, stmaryshs.com, stmaryshs.com. It is 7:50 here, Big 550 KTRS. Joining us now is Jeremy Hollingshead. He is a partner with Hollingshead, Paulus, Ecker, and Fry. Jeremy, you are representing Stephen Roberts Jr., who is going to be a representative down in Jefferson City after the election. He's running unopposed, but he was called out and accused by Cora Faith Walker of sexual harassment. The prosecutors have since decided not to charge him because there wasn't enough evidence. He has decided to countersue. You are representing him in that lawsuit.
That's correct.
Okay. Tell us his thought. Tell us your thoughts. His thoughts. You guys have been thrust into this. His name has been dragged through the mud in all of this. No evidence, but the prosecutor said there is evidence of a consensual relationship.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, our thoughts are, first of all, I mean, whenever you have a criminal investigation pending, which had been taking place there for about a month and a half, it's almost unheard of for any criminal defense attorney, and Scott Rosenblum was representing him in that criminal case, to allow the client to talk publicly about the allegations, even for a politician. You know, the seriousness of the allegations that Ms. Walker lodged against him were of the nature he just couldn't go forward. So finally, once the prosecutor announced no charges, because there was no credible evidence of anything but a consensual encounter, that was finally his opportunity to come forward and to clear the air, so to speak, which is why when we filed our lawsuit, not only did we file the lawsuit, but as you may have noted, we also, instead of just making the allegations, included a number of exhibits with that demonstrated the story that Stephen wanted out there for people to know.
And what is the lawsuit? What are you filing?
Yeah, so the lawsuit has got a number of counts to it, to make it as simple as possible. It's a defamation claim, which is what people would consider to be slander, libel. In Missouri, it's just defamation. So that's making false statements about somebody that harms their reputation. We also have malicious prosecution, and that's when you prosecute somebody in bad faith, effectively, which is what we allege has taken place here. And then we have a couple counts that are very technical.
But he hasn't been prosecuted, so where's the bad faith here?
Yeah, so malicious prosecution in Missouri is not the actual filing of charges. It's the proceeding of an investigation against a person. The filing of a false police report, for example, could be considered malicious prosecution. In a lot of cases, it doesn't come to this, because if the police reports are filed and the charges aren't issued, as the case was here, then that never becomes public. Missouri law keeps those records closed. But in this case, Ms. Walker took it upon herself to go public with the information. And in a very unusual instance of a victim actually self-identifying herself to the press, she made those allegations of seeking charges from the press, public knowledge to the press. Mm-hmm. And so that's what creates the malicious prosecution here. It is an unusual situation in that she actually took it public, whereas normally this would remain sealed.
All right. You mentioned a number of exhibits that you guys released to show his innocence.
Correct.
What are some of those things?
Well, a number of the exhibits that we released included a receipt where he went to Schnucks and purchased some wine, some frozen pizza, condoms, which is consistent with the story that he had, that they met up at a party. And then we referenced an exhibit.
Was she with him when he purchased those?
She was with him. She was in the car.
She was in the car.
Right. Now, we also reference an exhibit that we can't really submit to the court because it's a video. So at some point in time, it obviously will be put into evidence. But that exhibit that we reference is actually a video from Straub's over in Central West End. And what that shows is the two of them getting out of his vehicle, walking up to the doors of Straub's, and it's closed. So it's after hours. Straub's closes early. And it shows them going up to the door very casually. She's dressed in what I would describe as a cocktail dress, which is also consistent with my client's story that they were at a party before this, not that she just drove over to his house to discuss
politics. This was the night in question.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So they walked up to the doors very, very casually, and then you can see both of them realizing, oh, no, this place is closed. And there's sort of this, I don't know, friendly, flirtatious type banter with them. You can't hear it. There's no audio to it, but just in looking at the way that they're interacting with each other, it's the interaction that you would see between two people who were good friends or at least very, very good acquaintances who were, as my client alleges, going to get wine and pizza. And
So that was from earlier in the night. Then they went to the other store where you got the receipt.
Right. So the sequence of events there was they went to Straub's. It was closed. They went to Whole Foods, also closed. They went to Straub's. Straub's was open. There was no video from Schnucks, which is where we sought the video. They didn't have any,
Right.
Which is why we submitted the receipt just to show, look, the timeline here adds up with my client's version.
You also have text messages where the two, I guess, confirm some type of sexual relationship between the two of them.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I think the text messages really just more describe that there was a lot of interaction between the two of them. It was very friendly interactions that were friendly even after the night before. And now, keep in mind, the night before is the evening that the photo that we referenced, the nude photo, and the encounter over in Kansas City took place, where my client alleges that Ms. Walker came into his hotel room after they'd gone out in Kansas City for a political function, and that she proceeded to take a shower, take her clothes off in front of him. And that photo also, for obvious reasons, is not attached as an exhibit. It's a nude photo.
After the night in question, in which she alleges the sexual assault, were there friendly text messages after that?
There were not, but there were friendly encounters after that. So a couple weeks after the night in question, as you referenced it, Mr. Roberts was actually at Cafe O, which is a bar. It's been renamed, but it's at the Chase Park Plaza. He was there with another representative, and Ms. Walker and her husband came into the bar and had a friendly conversation with Mr. Roberts. In fact, they sat down at the table with my client and the other representative, and her husband got up and went to the bar to get a drink. The other representative followed him to grab a drink for my client and himself, and left Miss Walker sitting at the table with my client for a number of minutes while they got a drink. To us, that it's a very friendly encounter. And then even when that was over with, she hugged him goodbye, sort of like what friends would do. Something very inconsistent with a person who had alleged that they were raped by this individual.
Jerry Hollingshead is a partner in a law firm, and he is speaking on behalf of Stephen Roberts Jr., who was accused of sexual harassment against Cora Faith Walker. Jeremy, last question for you, and that is this. All of those things, for argument's sake, for this conversation, may be true. They had a consensual relationship. They were friendly. They were flirtatious. She was wearing the cocktail thing. They hugged afterwards. The whole thing. But no means no. And if she said no, even after they've had consensual relationships and whatever else, and no means no, there's no evidence that she said no and he didn't listen to her, right? I mean, because all of that may be true, but no means no, and we don't have any evidence of what happened in that room that night.
I would agree that no means no. I mean, these cases on both sides, whether it's prosecuting the case or as the case for us, prosecuting false allegations, are oftentimes built on circumstantial evidence. We think this, and you can convict somebody beyond a reasonable doubt in a rape case on circumstantial evidence. We think that the series of events and the evidence we put forward and additional evidence we think will come to light as the litigation proceeds will demonstrate that what you just suggested is extremely unlikely. We're not there. We're not in the room. That's true whether you're prosecuting it in a criminal court of law or whether or not you're prosecuting a defamation claim or a malicious prosecution claim in a civil case. So we think the evidence is more than strong enough to prove more likely than not, which is our standard here, that this took place.
How are these two going to work together down in Jefferson City?
That's a very good question. I think it's going to be something that both of them are going to have to figure out as time goes on. I couldn't answer that question for you because I can't imagine, from my client's perspective, having to be in a situation where you have to work with somebody like that.
Jeremy Hollingshead is a lawyer and on behalf of Stephen Roberts Jr. Jeremy, I'm sure we'll be talking in the future. Thanks for coming.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
7:58.